So in 2008, after about 17-18 years of practicing outside in US and Europe, we thought about founding a practice in India, and in 2008 we started a firm called I&I Design Studio. The idea was to really bring the Western international practices and blend into our Indian Eastern values. Over the 10 years, we have about 18-20 colleagues of ours who also came and joined us in our practice, and we grew into about 170 today in India, with 3 offices in India, which is Mumbai, Ahmedabad and Pune. We have one international location in London that we also operate from.
This villa that we are presenting today is Lotus Villa, which is located in one of the township which is called Gokuldam. It's one of the best addresses in Ahmedabad city. It houses gated bungalows, which is high-end bungalows. It's part of the western part of the Ahmedabad. Gokuldam is well known for its green spaces. It houses hundreds of mango trees and chiku trees. And so if you are in the Gokuldam, you feel like you are in the countryside while you are actually in the city area. So the project brief started as the requirement of 4-bedroom house, but it needs to have a connection with the nature. So we wanted to create a design vision which was more the space that connects to the contemporary, blends into the nature while keeping the Indianness same as is.
So the original plot is a corner plot, and the area of the plot is about 1100 square yard, and it's pretty much a rectangle corner plot, as you can see. And pretty much this is the west, north and south. This is the roadside and this is the roadside. And we were blessed, as earlier discussed, that there were almost 6-7 mature trees that came about along with the plot. When we entered in this house, pretty much the plinth work was already done by a developer, and we said, how do we go about this? So we looked at the plinth level plan and started seeing what's good that we can retain, and did some strategic interventions to really open up the house in terms of creating a space that blends inside out and so forth. So then we started looking at how we really organize the house in terms of a linear walls, which kind of just go in one direction as a whole. We carved out this courtyard, which connects all of the room to the landscape, and we created another set of a courtyard at the back. So what happens that in the west-south face, you can see the pretty much ventilation and the nature flows through this. And then we started looking at what's there in terms of the trees existing, and then we created a context which is at the edge. So rather than building a masonry wall, we created a green wall to enhance the nature and the backdrop of the tree. We added some more trees and pretty much opened up all of the west side as the main green space. Again, we added some green here, some green here, so you could see that how it starts flowing the inside out. Having a corner plot, what we did that we separated to save some of the existing tree, a pedestrian entry and a vehicular entry. So that's what really, so once you come enter into the vestibule, where we have a wonderful art wall and accent color. As you go further down, we have a Puja Room, and here we have a pretty much living room, which is a formal that looks to this garden and the gardens here at the courtyard. As you come further, what happens is you have a family room that also has a wonderful view to the courtyard and a water body which is a fish pond here, and another water body which is here, which is a lotus pond, adding to the views. As you go down, then you have a pretty much a larger space which also creates a wonderful family areas with dining and a kitchen space. So you have a kitchen here and you have a dining space. Again, they both really celebrate the view on one side to the main courtyard and the dining courtyard, which is an intimate courtyard. So you have all of the rooms and family areas that can either have a view to the center garden or the main front garden with a lotus pond. As you come forward, there is a stair that leads you upper level, and there is a master bedroom. Again, the feature that we said here is that master bedroom is also connected directly to the main garden at the. So we created a wonderful all-season glass house here that kind of celebrates garden directly from the bed area, and also a toilet here that also celebrates the backside courtyard and intimate private toilet without losing the privacy. We wanted to carry and fit the philosophy of the entire community of 40 villas which come as part of this development. We started looking at the existing palette, which was adobe textured plaster, some slate stone. So we said maybe to respect the context and fit in, we said we will continue those palettes. We open up the section also so that materiality and the landscape really flows into each space. So what we did is we brought new materials which are exposed concrete, elements of the green within the sectional side of it. We introduced our like a leather finish granite, created a floating deck around pretty much where the house connects to the landscape. So the granite and the wood decking that we proposed all across. And then some areas what we did is pretty much, as you can see, the masses of the exposed concrete, which also were pretty much there in the community. So we created some of these concrete exposed accent walls that continued, and then some of the stucco earthy color plaster that we rendered in some of the area. The idea was to really create more contemporary feel through this play of earthy color and the concrete. It kind of brings the air through this green screen and kind of drives through the courtyard to the interior spaces. So that's what we did here. So to create the outside in and outside coming inside, so we carried some of the texture plaster and the slate into interior courtyards. So that's one thing that we created to really blend in the nature. Then what we did is we used pretty much subtle, calm Nirjana white marble across the house so that the flow of the spaces kind of continue, and the granite which kind of created decks around, also we kind of carried that like in the entrance vestibule, and then you continue transition into a marble. So that's a subtleness that we created. As far as the colors, the idea was kind of really have a modern feel, but which is still looking back to Indianness, some vernacular color palette. So what we did is we created some of the orange accent walls, brought in some of the art to really create those wonderful experiences.
As project brief suggested to be in the nature, so not only visually we tried to keep the color palettes and textures of the nature, but we also be very sensitive to the sound of the nature. So by creating a small courtyards strategically placed, so we can hear the sound of birds, and since the migrating birds flies through in the winter, and the sound of rain, the waterfall in the summer, So all those elements we are very sensitive while designing this particular interior part of the house. So overall message to this particular house is that we can use contemporary architecture, but at the same time we can keep that Indianness, the century old concepts alive and still flow with the nature.